Breaking news update of news that happened like last week or even more long ago. First, the facts, then opinions, then the hot takes, then the closing. John Baldur's Gate III has surpassed 814,000 concurrent people playing with him on Steam so far. For comparison's sake, this is the 9th highest all-time peak of any game on Steam, beating the likes of Fallout 4 and Apex Legends, trailing Elden Ring and Cyberpunk 2077. The studio sports about 450 employees compared to the likes of CD Projekt Red, creators of The Witcher and Cyberpunk, at 1,110, and FromSoft, the Dark Souls guys, at a mere 397. That's called Japanese toxic work culture, and it's very effective. Elden Ring's success might be tied to PC players' love for patches. Avalanche Software has 140 employees who made Hogwarts Legacy. Employee numbers don't show everything about a studio, but they show something. I don't really know what this is exactly, but hey, letting damage do damage to the overall microtransaction industry is positive in my book. And this was their catalog before the game's released. Going from ports and Disney card games to number 8 on that list. Remember Tak and the Power of Juju? Yeah, I do too, as I proceeded to skip playing it and play good games instead. This kind of success wasn't expected by Larian, who even stated they were shooting for roughly 100k users, which was about the same size as their Divinity Original Sin 2 peak. We're looking at almost 10 times the size increase on this. Viagra commercials be damned. The low expectations was from the fact that the game has been in early access for like 3+ years, which they expected to be entirely of the user base, with a slight jump on release since it's now a complete game. Boy, were they wrong. And in a good way. The success has led to quite the Twitter, or I guess discourse revolving around this. The head of a studio who developed a fun but short Excel spreadsheet management game called Space Organ Simulator had this to say about the way Baldur's Gate 3 should be taken by the industry. Like a lot of people, I'm deeply excited about what the lovely folks at Larian accomplished with Baldur's Gate 3, but I want to gently, preemptively push back against players taking that excitement and using it to apply criticism or a raised standard to RPGs going forward. Responses to that tweet included from the likes of Grimlore Games, Spellforce 3, senior narrative designer Rebecca Harwick. This whole thread, you can't be appalled about how much big games cost to make, and make those lavish productions the standard by which all games are judged. I hope Baldur's Gate 3 is a generous, once-in-a-lifetime RPG. I hope no one expects a 10, 20, 40-person team to make one. Ryan McCabe, game designer for Insomniac of 490 employees. This is a great thread about why using a singular game to set expectations for everyone developing titles in a genre isn't useful and is instead foolhardy. Josh Sawyer, design director of Obsidian, about 200 employees, had this to say. Great thread. The conditions under which Baldur's Gate 3 was made are atypical. This is in no way a slight against the game or the people working on it, who are clearly passionate and talented. Having the foundation set and the funding to build things on your own terms is invaluable. Philippe Pepe, editor of the CRPG book project. What's interesting is that this is basically what Baldur's Gate 2 did too. They had an engine and a team ready, then spent 2 years crunching and made one of the biggest RPGs ever. Just remember, it has 17 companions, each with their own quests, 4 romances, and a ton of side quests. Diablo 4 senior designer, quote, "You're absolutely right. Even if you look at one of Vink's touchstones, Ultima 7, that's a game that had 12 years of prior games feeding into it. If you were to look at this as a new benchmark, we would need to then focus on creating conditions, just like with TOTK. But people too often only look at the fruits of labor and not the labor itself. Same as it ever was, I guess. Same deal with people wondering why there are so few artists painting like Renaissance masters." Baldur's Gate 3 currently sits at a Metacritic score of 97, with a user base score of 9.3, and is the 15th highest rated game in Metacritic history, beating the likes of Red Dead Redemption 2 and Grand Theft Auto 5. This is accounting for the average of all critic reviews, so it's in the decimals. Also, might go down because there's only 14 reviews so far, but hey, clickbait baby, clickbait. Some iconic reviews include, "In a world where illusion of player choice reigns supreme, Baldur's Gate 3 remembers players' agency and rewards them with an attention to detail that propels itself to the pantheon of critically acclaimed RPGs. 0 out of 10. Good storytelling, no microtransactions. What can you wish for more in 2023? 0 out of 10. The success has made John Baldur's father, Sven Johan Vink, add himself to the main menu screen to show off his success to the players. Wearing plate armor has now become cool once again. Opinions. Okay, first of all, I don't think anyone is expecting every single RPG to be like Baldur's Gate in scope. What makes great RPGs is that you, as a character, feel like stuff is progressing around in the background and your character feels human and part of the world. Those choices are either being story decisions or the way you play the game, or, ideally both. Dragon's Dogma and Witcher 3 feel like the epitome of catering to those design decisions. In one, the combat is incredibly different between classes, and the other, the story is the focal point. Dragon's Dogma had the best feeling magic I think of any game, where you channel for like 6 hours in a corner and pray no one sneezes in your direction to cast a giant meteor from the sky. Or you could just, whack things with the sword until they died. Or climb monsters. Witcher 3's choices, albeit quite limited in the grand scheme of things, made story sense, and I really felt like I was playing as someone with the swagger of a master medieval mercenary monster murderer maniac making much money and much wow. What made Divinity Original Sin 2 and now Baldur's Gate 3 interesting is that it managed to do both by adding like 7+ characters with the complexities of Geralt, and all of them are playable, while all of them play incredibly different with their mechanics. It's not samey gameplay where I get the choice to deal 10 extra magic damage or 10 extra physical damage, and in the end it's just all button mashing or spamming the same spells. And that makes the series, being Larian's works, special. Addressing the criticism that the game was due to a bunch of non-replicable factors. Those factors are called passion and dedication to the video game industry, and its player base. I'm not being naive, I swear. I have a video game designer as a friend. Video games nowadays seem to be filled with cash grabs and monetization strategies. Instead of creating games that are fun to play, you're basically making extremely shiny Skinner boxes where the more money you put into a game, the better you feel about it. Except you don't. Then you realize all life is pointless because I invested so many hours in this game and now I'm not the best unless I open up these card packs and I'm on top of the world again. Yes, I high rolled. I'm the god of all horse armor for the next 4 hours until the daily shop resets and you want something else. Late stage capitalism or the distribution of wealth? You decide. I find it so ironically hilarious that the senior designer of Diablo 4 of all people is stating that it's hard to find talent to make decent games because they need experience and time to hone in their work. I'm sorry, isn't Diablo 4 the 4th game of the series? Or should I say 5th because of Immortals? There was no assets or foundations to build upon there for polish or storytelling. And the game leaves such a bad taste in your mouth. You grind stuff over and over till the combat feels absolutely samey. Any meaningful skills feel lackluster and you just spam most of them off cooldown, and every item enchantment is a fucking wall of text that I just can't be bothered to read every encounter to see if I'm losing or gaining a 0.5% damage increase. That's not fun. Looks good though. I'd rather spend 45 minutes in turn-based combat having a ridiculous encounter that I think I cannot win, like in Divinity and Baldur's Gate 3. Okay, that was a bit of a tangent, but back on the main point of fruits of the labor, Larian almost went bankrupt. They poured all the money they had into Divinity Original Sin at the time, even postponed paying taxes. Yeah, Larian, what does that mean? Wink wink, hush hush, and launched a game that they went all in with. And succeeded. That was with years of experience behind them, and they almost failed. They kickstarted Original Sin 2 as well, successfully, and pretty much launched my career as a content creator while I proceeded to torpedo it into the ground, and then got the IP for Baldur's Gate, proceeded to now make one of the greatest RPGs of all time, at least based on concurrent players and reviews that it has received. Definitely a strong contender for Game of the Year, let alone the GOAT of the industry of D&D games. All of this while never selling out, almost having a firm stance on what they wanted to do and a vision. Was it hard? Sure. But now it's paid off, and that's amazing. Acting like other studios should instead focus on milking players to make it into the game industry, rather than making something passionate. I don't think every studio should succeed in the grand scheme of things. I think the ones that should succeed are the ones that are built for the players, like Larian managed to do so. That takes risks, and they should be rewarded as such. Studios solely existing to be in the market to suck us dry like some bad 90s American Pie vacuum skit is the most dystopian thing I've ever seen. Having someone lead by example that FIFA packs and horse armor isn't the only way to make games nowadays. We don't want this to become another Marvel movie franchise, but with games. Oh wait, I guess there's Call of Duty and Battlefield and sports games. A polished turd is a turd, but words will never hurt them. Only actions and supportive games that break the cycle will. Who plays old Call of Duty games for the story anymore? I still see people playing Baldur's Gate 2 and Diablo 2 even. Studios like this deserve all the success that they get. But let's hope that this doesn't turn into another CD Projekt Red disaster. Lightning can't strike twice in the same spot, can it? Wait. Fuck. Some hot takes. This is basically Divinity D&D edition. If you love Divinity, you'll like this game. If you didn't, well, it's basically the same thing except with an addictive dice rolling mechanism instead of just a % chance for decisions. And for whatever reason, this is the most thrilling thing I've ever encountered in any game, despite it most likely being exactly the same core mechanic as any other % chance to win the dialogue tree game in existence. Gosh darn, rolling a natural 20 makes you hard. I mean, is hard, but oh, so satisfying. There will be haters for this take, hence hot take I guess, which will point out all the differences how the game is an expansion that redefines the genre with so many changes, blah blah blah. But it's Divinity through and through with a paint job. That doesn't mean it's a bad thing, far from it. What is Call of Duty but an evolved Doom-like? But to call it Baldur's Gate 3 takes 2 Baldur-sized balls, but we roll with those. 2. They shouldn't do Baldur's Gate 4. Okay, I know. They always wanted to do Baldur's Gate. The games are heavily inspired to be, and they were denied early on because they didn't have a good track record just yet. But Wizards kind of became a bad company. Well, more so kind of greedy in their approach to monetizing their content, restricting the license to the D&D IP because they're just foaming in the mouth for all the D&D content that's available through the likes of Critical Role and other games without taking a piece of that pie. Yeah, that's not a good look to have where your entire user base is fan-created content to begin with. Without going over everything, they just start going very anti-consumer and supporting them as Plus, they're paying Wizards to make the game by borrowing the IP, which is interesting. I think making this game was essential in their further success to bring their studio into the spotlight, but let's go back to Divinity or partnering with other studios to make amazing collabs. I would 100% be down for Divinity-like to be a term like Souls-likes are nowadays. What's your Divinity-like? A Resident Evil Divinity-like? Sounds either absolutely amazing or terrible, but we definitely need to see stuff like that. Or maybe an XCOM Divinity series. 3. Larian redo Act 3. Just without going into spoilers, I can't take it anymore. It feels incredibly rushed and grindy in the sense combat is taking hours and a big FU in mechanics. Also, what happened to journals that were more useful? I'm getting flashbacks of Morrowind style quests. I don't like this, and this is coming from a metagamer. Okay, thank you. Overall, I'm incredibly happy for Larian and the success. I think this is definitely a good thing for the industry as a whole. I mean, for one, it shows Larian and the studio doing things differently, that they were correct in their decision to approach this the way they did, and they should continue striving towards the vision that they have. It shows that the other studios that there is potential to make a compelling game that is different and bucks the trends. Tabletop D&D mechanics seem to indeed have a place in this modern gaming world, and you should look to see what makes those things fun. Let's go back to Dragon Age Origins and not keep going towards Dragon Age 2. I just can't help but feel wonderful things towards the studio, so I'll give back and publish one guide video per game that they release every few years. What do you guys think of all the unexpected success Larian is getting? Justified, or is just all hype coming from the Baldur's Gate 3 IP? Am I deadass wrong in my opinions? I will fight back with essays or parasociality to defend my honor. Look for the patented Quackstack like this comment. Was this rant all a cope to procrastinate editing the other stuff? Flame me in the comments below. Good day.